All right. Hello, Newark Baptist Church, and hello, Dr. Snavely and your beautiful wife, Grace. How are you guys?
Doing good.
We're great. We're glad to say hi to the church, you guys.
Yeah, so this is something new that we've been trying to do just to like keep our church people a little more in the loop with our missionary families. And obviously you guys hold a very special place in our church people's hearts and lives. And so I'm just going to let you guys talk for a couple minutes and just tell us, I guess, three basic questions. We'll start with number one. Like, how has this coronavirus pandemic, like how has it directly affected your ministry and your lives?
That's really the $64,000 question, Pastor Justin. And by the way, greetings, church, and let us thank you as we begin this meeting for the faithful support, not only in financial but prayer and in the spiritual sustenance that we feel from you every time you send a check and every time you enter into our work with us. And so that being said, Corona has really cemented the fact that what we're doing is in essence so important, because the whole mission to train nationals is based on the idea that they know how to do it better because they already know the language, they already understand the culture, and they already love the people. And at some point, we've always told them, and every time I've held a classroom abroad, we've told them that the day is coming when we will not be able to come back. And lo and behold, it happened. And I don't think any of us expected it to happen the way that it did. But when it did happen, our first thought was, uh-oh, how successful is the training now going to pan out to be in the lives of those that we've trained? Are they going to pick up the ball and start running with it? And I'm glad to report that that's exactly what has happened. And it is exciting and thrilling and overwhelming to us that is what's happened, precisely because we told them in advance it probably would, but none of us knew that it was going to happen. It did.
Well, and to add to that, my husband got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from Liberia, and of course, the only English-speaking country where Global Baptist Training Foundation operates. I answer my phone. I never know if it's going to be in Asia, Haiti, or who knows. But anyway, this pastor called and he said, "Doctor," he said, "our country is still shut down, but they don't worry about us out in the villages, only the cities. So we've kept having church, and guess what? We started a new church in the next village, and many of my brothers have done the same thing. We use your material, we train the pastor, we church." And then we've heard from Rwanda the same thing. They're starting churches all out through the villages while they're locked down, and they attribute their GBTF training to motivating them to go out and do it. And we're just going, oh my goodness, this is what we said would happen, and look, it's happening.
That is so cool. So cool. I know that like most of these places that you guys have gone in and you've done this training, they're very like secluded type of places. Is that correct? Or they?
Oftentimes that's true, especially in Liberia, because we go into the bush, what we call the jungle, what we call the back territory, however you would see that. Sometimes it's jungle, sometimes it's just, open areas where they congregate, and we meet them in a particular location. But yeah, it's not city life for sure, and it's not urbanly promoted and all of that.
So other than giving them an opportunity to create more churches and share the gospel, like has the coronavirus like hit any of the areas that you guys have been ministering in hard, or are they just continuing on with life?
Yeah, I think in Africa, we've heard, and Grace, you might know something more as well. We've not seen a great impact either in Rwanda or Uganda. When they lock these places down, they usually lock them down really at the border, and they limit free access to anything. So most people have to stay in their homes. They can't leave. If they leave, they're arrested. I mean, it's a pretty tough regimen for many of them because they live in countries that are predominantly totalitarian in the way that the government operates. So you really don't have a choice on how you live. But out in the bush areas, they don't have that same kind of restraint, and so there's a little bit more of a free flow. And of course, the virus, I don't even know if any of them out in these villages have even been affected by it.
That's what I was going to say, that we haven't heard from any of our hosts or any of the people that we're in contact with that they've had any issue with it at all. So,
wow, that's great.
effect, if any. But, I guess historically, I think we're even seeing in our country, when the gospel's repressed and persecuted, it spreads.
Yeah.
We're certainly seeing that, I think, across the globe. I think it's a reason for encouraging believers that, Satan can throw his worst at us, and we know who's going to end up winning. And that's sort of how we feel like winning. There are people saved, there are churches being planted, and the gospel is going forward, even while governments are trying to shut churches down. So that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Snavely.
I was just going to, in the only area that I know of that has had a real hit in terms of the COVID virus is Myanmar in East Asia. And I just got word from Pastor Luke yesterday that they've had their second round that's gone through, and they're in Yangon, so that's the city, and that's to be expected to a much larger degree than what you'd get in the outer areas.
But has it affected any of them personally, or just the area?
He didn't say.
Yeah.
He seemed to indicate that, they had a few of their associates maybe that had been affected, but it wasn't a pandemic of any.
Yeah, that's sort of the feeling that I've gotten from them too, that if there's been cases, it's been one or two, no one's been real sick. So I think the Lord's been protecting his people all over the world.
As far as like our church goes, like what are some specific things that our church people can pray for you guys?
This last 6 months has been a very interesting one for us. We have re-strategized everything that we are doing, and it's kind of resulted in a whole new perspective on how we're going to attack the future. We've begun a campaign to begin training the trainers. And we've isolated 10 trainers in East Africa, 10 trainers in West Africa. And we're going to start pouring into those trainers to train them over the next couple of years. And in the process, we're going to raise the funding for them, support each one of those trainers so that they will have the ability to leave their senior pastor position after training their successor with GBTF materials and equipping them. And then they're going to be going out and both setting up and holding GBTF meetings and becoming trainers of the materials with which they've been trained. The training, those 20 trainers are going to cost the foundation about $72,000 to $75,000 a year more. We're also going to double our budget. We're going to also we're going to raise funding to help with salaries for the foundation employees so that we can stop teaching online and start focusing our attention exclusively on our work and not be divided anymore. So that's a pretty big thing. It's about $216,000 more a year we're going to raise, and it's not going to be one lump sum from Bill Gates. It's going to just come from anybody that wants to join in supporting a trainer. It's going to take about 10 people at $30 a month to support one trainer at $300 a month. And Pastor Justin, you know, and I know how much it takes to support an American missionary, probably anywhere from $55 to $9,500 a month. And when you can support a national at $300 a month to go out and exponentially reproduce what we're doing in holding classrooms and training those to start churches who will exponentially go out and multiply those churches, there's no comparison between the results of that kind of that kind of scenario versus just sending a white Western couple from here in America that's going to take 5 years to learn the language and 10 years to understand and navigate the culture to start a church.
Right.
Yeah, I think I find that amazing that $300 a month is all it takes. And believe it or not, we already have our first trainer getting support from GBTF. It's Fidel in Rwanda, and you've heard us talk about him for years. But Fidel is now fully supported by GBTF, and they're starting to open borders of Rwanda. So as early as next month, he's going to start holding classes in Burundi and the Congo, and then into Tanzania and Kenya. And he will be able to teach 50 weeks of the year, have 50 classes a year, where, you know, it's kind of boggling to our minds what the nationals can do, and they're very excited about it. And we just sent out a email update. I hope you guys got it, because it was a note from our host pastor in Liberia thanking us for finally believing that they were able to do it, that all we're doing is coming alongside them, discipling them and equipping them, not trying to do it for them, not trying to in any way, just coming along with some education. And then they are taking it, and what it has done for the gospel as well as for these pastors in Africa is it's just a true blessing to see how God's used this ministry.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't think I saw that update, but I'll go look for it. If I can find it, I'll put it in a link down below this video. Okay. And I thank you for sharing that. That's an unknown fact that, you know, most people don't know about you guys, is that, like, not only are you teaching people in third world countries, but I know you guys have, like, taught online classes for colleges to make money to be able to do what you do for a long time. You're tent makers, so to speak, and you know, you're very driven people, and I know the Lord is pleased with that. So how cool would that be if you could, you know, get paid and not have to teach 15 extra classes here in the States?
It'd be real cool. It'd be really, and we're at the point where we need to do that. We're so busy with the foundation work, which is what we want to do. It's where our heart is. So we see that God's going to help us do that.
Very cool. And then my one last question, how is your guys' family?
You mean all 12 grandkids?
Yes.
Sure.
They're all doing great. We just got to see Todd and Amy and the kids. And of course, Allison and Mike live here, and their 3 kids, Braden, Macy, and Garrett, we get to see quite often. And then Ashley and Lex. And Ashley is our kind of our social media guru. Lex operates our website, and they want to get more involved and more connected to the foundation all the time. They're big supporters in every area, and so it's great to have family that's involved and in the mission, and then come alongside you. And you know, oftentimes I'm asked when I'm out, I'm asked by people who are thinking about donating or supporting. They say, "Is your family involved? What are your sons and your daughters, you know, doing?" And it's to say, "Hey, they love what we do, and for the most part, they support, you know, with their own dollars what we do."
Mention our 3 girls and their families, but we also have our son, John, who's a youth pastor. You know, John's a youth pastor back now at our home church. And that's a prayer request too. Our home church has been through a lot and is still going through a lot. Satan has thrown some of the worst he could at that church. So we'd ask you guys just to pray, because it's our foundation's home church. We want them to get through this dark period that they're going through. But our family has all stayed healthy, serving the Lord. We're just really thankful how God's taking care of all of them.
Amen.
We're COVID free.
Yes.
COVID-free.
Hey. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And if I could have a word of prayer with you, we'll let you guys go. All right. Father, I thank you for Bruce and Grace. I thank you for the hearts that they have just toward training third world national pastors with theological backing so that they can go and do the work that you've called them to do. And I pray that you would continue to open every door, and as they're restructuring the way that they are approaching this ministry, I pray that you give them wisdom, give them fruit for their labor. And Father, obviously they could use a little bit more money. And Father, I thank you for your faithfulness to them. And from Newark Baptist Church, we just thank you for them. And we ask this in the name of your dear Son. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Amen. Thank you.